Before we go into Musaf, I just want to share a couple of thoughts. Over the last weeks, there has been a staggering amount of online classes, seminars, and programs coming from all different places all throughout the world that have been put together to provide some entertainment, some learning, and a little escapism for us as we remain cooped up in our homes. And some of those have been really incredible. And thank you to those of you who have been sharing some gems with our clergy team. We appreciate it. And some of them have been a little strange, but still fascinating to watch and see how different people and organizations are trying to find creative responses to this crisis. But the most meaningful contribution to this brave new world of ours I've seen was something very different. And I've been thinking about it a lot these past few days. On Monday, I was invited to sit in on an interview on Instagram sponsored by the city of Detroit. Unlike a lot of these other videos I've seen, I didn't recognize the names of the participants, and I wasn't entirely sure of the format or even the subject matter when I entered the feed. And I wasn't the only one, because while normally these live videos bring in a few thousand viewers at least, this one had just a steady 38. But let me tell you why that number stayed the same for the entire hour and didn't have any of the Narishkeit or offensive spotlighters that are so ubiquitous in these online programs these days. This live video had only one goal. It was made up of 2 Detroit mental health professionals in their respective homes, talking to one another about ways of coping and grieving through these deaths, this fear, and anything and everything else that any one of us could be feeling and experiencing at this moment. And it was really good. Not good as in high quality HD thoughtful programming, good as in it seems like it brought good to this city, to this community, because there was no grandstanding or pontificating, no ego-driven need for attention. It was just an honest, open door for people to safely let in the craziness that's outside so that some processing, some healing could take place. Throughout the interview, everyone on the chat shared their own thoughts, feelings, losses, and coping mechanisms. There was a young woman who lost both of her parents, others who lost coworkers, friends, and neighbors. Some people didn't personally know anyone with the virus, but needed to talk out their stress and anxieties related to their financial situation, their living situation, and even in one case, the inability for a man to see his child since the quarantine was put into effect. And so everyone stayed, which is unheard of on Instagram or Facebook. They stayed the entire hour. And though they spoke to one another with online vernacular and emojis and abbreviations, they expressed real life sympathies and condolences. They shared real phone numbers, real mailing addresses, and they gave off a very real energy of comfort and hope. It's that video, not the Saturday night Seder, not the celebrity book readings or Zoom memes that are staying in my heart during these last days of Pesach. Because while we need some levity, some silliness, and even some distraction right now, there's also nothing more beautiful and hopeful than the reminder that neighbors, coworkers, friends, and acquaintances, and even total strangers are finding each other, even through mandated isolation, to hear one another, to support one another, to comfort one another. Today and tomorrow are Yontif. These are holy days. They're holy days designated on our Jewish calendar for offering up songs of joy and gratitude, praise and celebration, marked with extra special dinners and lunches, lots of wine, delicious food, and a break from the normal stresses of our lives. But these days also come with the tradition of Yizkor, a liturgical addendum to remember that even in times of joy, there is suffering. And perhaps to even acknowledge the theological paradox that without that suffering, we might not know or really understand what joy is. And what that profound dissonance, the dissonance between the joy of Hag and the pain of Yizkor represents, is critical to understanding the situation we find ourselves in today. because we are charged with something important today and tomorrow. We are charged to reject distraction and to focus on what's real and to take hold of that reality in whatever forms it comes to us and allow it into our hearts. That means smiling, laughing, and singing without guilt or embarrassment when the holiness of these days fills us with happiness. We're allowed to be happy. And at the same time, without any contradiction, it means crying real tears when we are sad, anxious, angry, or scared. And knowing that any and all of these are right, are true, and are completely understandable as this trek into the thick and constricting unknown goes on. So very intentionally, I've not set out on this seventh day of Pesach to offer words on an obscure commentary on today's Torah reading, or to lay out a layered interpretation of the laws of Passover, because today that doesn't feel to me as true as simply saying the following. Please feel what you need to feel, whatever that might be this morning, this evening, tomorrow during Yizkor, and for the coming moments and the hours, days, weeks, and months ahead. Feel the good, feel the lousy, feel the hope, feel the uncertainty, and know that you can feel all of it safely, because all of us on this clergy team, the CSE staff, our lay leadership, and so many throughout this incredible synagogue family are a phone call, text, or email away. There will be plenty of time for distractions, for the new season of Fauda, for Unorthodox, and whatever else is on your Netflix queue. But for these days, at least for these two, let's take on the challenge of being present. Come what may, let's do it without shame or guilt, and let's support one another through it all, so that it can be a Chag Sameach, a happy holiday, a confusing holiday, a complicated holiday, a truthful holiday. And let us say together, Amen, as we continue now with Musaf.